cite them, you know, going by what the ordinance is telling us, and even exceeding what the ordinance is telling us. There is no clear link studies out there that show if you cite a turbine properly, that there's no adverse health effects.
For hearing or?
For hearing, yes. For sound.
Sound.
Yes, sorry about that.
How about sleeping? How about your sleeping capability? I've seen or heard where they take sleep tests and people that lives by them, they don't get a good night's sleep because they've always got the noise, the red lights. They don't get into deep sleep. So, okay, how we do that?
Yeah, if you can show me those research articles afterwards, I would like to see that, because I cannot find those research articles out there that point that is a cost.
There are 72 to 76,000 turbines in the United States, depending on which report you're looking at. We have 3,000 turbines in our fleet around the country. For 30 years, this industry has been back in the United States when it was kicked out in the 70s because of smaller units and things of that. But within that time frame, we've developed, the industry has the setback formulas. I think the county is incorporating that with a formula of 2 times the height to a resident that far exceeds being outside of any detriment to the health, safety, and welfare. That is our #1 goal as a company, is the health, safety, and welfare of a project for the host community, as well as livestock and habitat. Eventually, we're gonna have employees here, so if it's gonna negatively impact that, we won't build it. Those safety standards have been implemented at the formulas of 2.1 times the height for residents, 1 times the height to a property line for a reason. Now, no landowner has been hurt or killed by a turbine in the United States since I've been here in the 90s. So what that says is turbines and their setbacks work. The safety standpoint, there's been, as Matthew said, from a health standpoint, from a cancer standpoint, anybody can claim that it is. If you don't want these, you know, my grandma called it being a worry ward. You can worry yourself. And so from that standpoint, you know, from the safety standpoint of having those formulas, it is proven with those setbacks that the sleep deprivation, the noise aspects, because it is a regulated item, that is something that we monitor all the time. If we do have something that would exceed the county regulations, we have to shut down. There's a lot of safety aspects on these turbines that will shut them down for a number of reasons. And so there's always limits that these turbines have. There's 24-hour surveillance on them, whether it's a local operations that's watching it or our main facility down in Texas that is watching all of them around the country.
Yes, ma'am.
You said some health effects. What about pacemakers, defibrillators, deep brain stimulators being affected by, and my technical knowledge, but from the magnet in them? I mean, they can't be scanned at the airport when you have that device. What's the effect on those?
So from the research that I have seen, there is no effect on those, because that would be a huge issue where the products would not be developed if that was the case.
Having the distance away from the house exceeds the effect of those pacemakers. Autism, we've had the Autism Society take a look at this, and they're more worried about strobe lights from first responders or fire trucks or police vehicles than they are from wind turbines from the Autism Society.
You have that in an article or something that we could read? I would like to see that.
You'll have to give me your name
I
and
know.
afterwards or whatever.
Thank you.
All right, as a gentleman, clear
Yeah.
back row.
Going back to the setbacks, the question was brought up Tuesday night where we referred to the safety manual of Vestas. I believe it was model V92. their recommendation for setback on a 390-foot system was 1,640 feet. You said you were gonna follow up on that.
Yes.
Do you have that?
No, after this meeting as well, I will.
Speak a little louder.
After the 2 meetings we have, I'm compiling all the questions and we'll give that to you after I do my in-depth research and give it to the county, and the county will disperse it. to
Well,
its
I guess
residents.
I didn't think that was in depth, it's a safety manual for the machine you're using. I thought maybe you had that.
We're not using that machine. We don't know what machine we're using yet, because this is where the studies come to play, to find out what machine is gonna work best for us, based on the setbacks. I said, right now, we're using the B163, so that model that you are stating is outdated.
Okay.
But what you're referring to is in the event of an emergency, that company had recommended a perimeter from the safety standpoint for, just like the setbacks, as far as 2 times the height to a resident or 1 times to the property line. The manufacturer says, look, if there's a catastrophic event and it's mechanical, just like a combine, doing what it may or may not do, is designed, but from the manufacturer standpoint, they're saying, look, set up a safety perimeter until you stabilize everything from that standpoint. So that's what that was referencing, was that
Okay,
distance.
well, I guess I'll believe that when I read it.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
I'm kinda curious, what does that do to, property value? I've got a neighbor, she inherited the ground, she lived in Des Moines, she signed up for it, and I'm gonna have one of these, turbines about 300 yards from my front door.
Yeah, great question. There was a lot of questions about property value and home value on Tuesday, and my property expert is not here tonight, and I don't want to speak out of turn, so those questions I have written down, I want to take it back to that firm to get a good solid answer. But thank you.
I'm actually the one that asked that question to that property person the other day, just, from the forensic appraisal group. We have anywhere from 8 to 50% land sink, that's out of, Ontario, Canada. The appraisal group in Wisconsin, 19 to 40% on 1 to 10 acre residents. Clark University, New York study, 15 to negative, or to 31% within 1 to 3 miles of a wind farm. Forensic appraisal group, Coral Springs, Wyoming, large residential lots, 35 acres, abutting a proposed wind property value impact of 25 to 44%. The McCain study in Illinois, residential properties found an average impact of 25%. The forensic appraisal group, Big Sky, Illinois, 12 to 25%. And then forensic, yes, these are losses. Forensic appraisal group, Twin Groves, 2, Wind Farm, Illinois. Basically 7 to 46%. So you guys need to do your own research.
Just along that line, are you gonna have any reassurance programs set up that will reevaluate and maintain the valuation of our property? In case we lose 40% of our value for our home, for our farm ground? You have a bond surety set up?
We do, it's actually with the county that we have to abide by the bond.
Okay, I did a study also come out of MIT. And this was 12 years ago. The study from MIT on waterfowl death, bird death from wind turbines was as high as 649,000. That was over a decade ago. Now, since we have approximately 4 times the wind turbines, MIT said it has probably quadrupled. They're currently doing a study. Now, how big of a turbine are you putting up? A 5 megawatt?
650?
650?
Yeah.
Well, what I found out, a 5 megawatt takes 700 gallons of petroleum. They like to use synthetic. What reassurance do we have that you're not gonna have contamination of the soil?
Where did that 700 gallons number come from? Do you know offhand?
It come off Google. It's gotta be true then.
I can tell you that,
And actually, they said you have to change it on the average every 9 to 16 months, is one article.
it's longer than that. Different manufacturers have different life cycles of their oil. Sometimes they convert to synthetic. There's other third-party vendors of oil out there that have longer lifespans of
Mhm.
oil. In a 2 megawatt machine, typically you're looking at about 380 liters for the gearbox, it's about 125 gallons, give or take.
Okay.
In the 4 and 5 megawatt machines, you're looking at about 500 liters, so it's still shy of the 200 gallon mark, give or take. I have to look at Google myself to do.
Okay,
I see
we can do
liters.
that for me. One last question.
In addition.
How many of you,
Well, if I could add to his.
Okay.
The design of the nacelle, which is the housing. of
Yes.
the motor, has an oil pan in it, and so above the oil pan is the hole where the pipe comes through. So there is enough depth in the bottom of that housing to catch every drop of what oil may be up there. Plus, that low-level fluid alarm would go off, shut the turbine down. That would require a technician to go out and take a look at it so that they wouldn't start it up, hurt it, do damage to it, and then would have to remove that oil
And so-
and figure out what that problem
and
is.
so that's why we have oil sometimes coming down the side of the one out here by New London.
What is on the side is the rubber grommet of that hole
we have
that
oil
the
coming
pipe
out
goes
the side of the one in
through.
London.
And just like a windshield wiper or your seal on your car, that black in the wind is what is hitting the pipe and what causes the black marks. It is not an oil leak or hydraulic leak.
Greg, I've got one last question. Sure. How many of you live on Grandpa's farm?
I grew up on a farm.
Do you live on the farm yet?
Do I? No, he passed away and it was sold.
So you don't live on Grandpa's farm?
Not anymore.
Do you have a wind turbine within a quarter mile of your home?
I don't know that's a quarter mile, but they're proposing about 2 miles.
They're proposing.
I'd go with 2 miles from my.
Yeah, 2 miles, yeah.
Yeah, 2 miles sounds good.
And you don't live on the farm?
Yeah.
And one last thing, I heard one person said, and this happened over in Ohio. They were building the wind farm. He was a grandpa, his grandkids come out, and they were gonna go pheasant hunting. The people running off his own ground. They said, we're leasing this ground. He says, but I own it. We have control of it. You get the hell out of here. Is that the way you're gonna be?
No, not at all.
All developers are not created equal.
Ask if it's in the contract.
We are
Yeah,
in
it's in the
that
contract.
contract because we renew projects to extend, all right? Or because we're repowering it, so we have to renegotiate. If we've done our homework, if we treated people the way we told them in our papers, as well as our operations people live in the area, they live within a half mile of a turbine, they try to do their best job as far as anything that RWE does, we are held responsible to maintain, fix, and repair. And so our operations people, that's their job diligently to not only maintain the turbines, to ensure that they're able to capture the wind, but then work with the landowners, because if we don't have a good corporate citizenship type mentality, then it's going to be harder for us to renew this project at the end of it if RWE chooses to extend it. If we end up commissioning it, then again, we work with landowners, including the sign off that we put it back the way we found it or slightly better. So our business aspect or acumen is hold ourselves accountable and treat everybody like our favorite aunt and uncle. And taking care of what we've done. So in answer to your question, as far as the company and over and on, again, all developers are not created equal. Well, the company has been around since 1898, 125 years in business. You can't have that type of longevity with not having wind farms and not treating people the way, you would wanna be treated, you won't have, companies for any number of years.
And also just to add to, I mean, if it's an active construction site, there are rules, we probably don't want children running around out there with heavy equipment and things like that. But once the site is commissioned and it's running, I mean, people can walk right up to the main towers without issue.
Also, over towards Purdue University, there are nearly 700 turbines that have been there for 10 or 15 years. Purdue's agricultural fields are in and around the turbines. I've spoken to some of the students that attended those classes that have been in those fields for 8 to 10 hours a day for the whole 4 years that they were at school. No health problems, no ill effects, no headaches. Different than if you're under a transmission line for about 20 minutes of 365,000 volts is a different response than what you get from a turbine that only has 34,000 volts.
This lady has a question.
How loud are those when they run?
Yes.
How far away and how far away from your buildings is it set up?
If you're standing a couple hundred feet away, you'll hear some aerodynamic noise coming off the blades, some whooshing. If you're standing at the base of the tower, that'll be a little bit louder, and you may hear a transformer hum at the top, but it's nothing that would be noteworthy. It's right there.
So with the setbacks that the county currently has at 2 times the tip height, with 650, you're looking at 1,300. You'll look at DBAs that are in the range of 30 to maybe 40. And a normal conversation is about 55.
You won't hear it.
And how far away from the buildings is
We have to follow the ordinance, so whatever the ordinance says at the time of the application that we provide is what we have to follow, but we try to exceed those distance. And the more people we sign up on to the project, it allows us to look at more buildable area. And if we have more buildable area to work with, we can definitely flex on those setbacks to set them even more responsibly as we would like to.
trying to take up an area or you spread them out several miles from each other?
Yeah, with this size of a turbine per section, you may have 1 to 2 in a section, but if we get stricter setbacks and we have to use smaller turbines to make up the 300 megawatts, well then it can be 4 to 5 turbines per section. So we'll try to spread that out.
What's a section?
600.
1 square mile.
Yes, sir. Yeah. You put a turbine up, if it's properly maintained, what's the life cycle? 10, 15 years? Does it have to be replaced?
Sorry, I'm hear your question.
You put a turbine up, does it have to be replaced? How long does it last?
With proper maintenance, it'll run indefinitely. I think 20, 30 years is our typical life cycle before we do the machine. That's mostly based on advancement of technology.
And then you bury them down.
Sorry.
The blades, how long do they last?
They'll last as long as they're maintained. They typically will get yearly inspections. Blade maintenance crews will go out, they patch, putty, fill, any cracks or gaps, just maintain. Usually the edge erosion is the biggest problem, is with dust and insects and things like that. And I'll just put it up and they will regularly finish before the time comes. So there's really no set number on how long.
What's the average though?
I can't speak to every entire sex of blades just replaced with a building. I've only dealt with,
We can't hear you.
finishing.
Speak up.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
So the lifetime from Emmanuel the Vestas 4.5 is 35 years for the turbine itself, and the blades is 15 to 20 years. So if we have to swap them out, we will swap them out or maintain them if it makes financial sense to maintain them rather than swap out a blade.
There are annual inspections, biannual actually, that we do a lot of safety aspects as far as the torques on, say, with the nuts on the towers themselves, as well as visual inspections. after storms, things of that nature, any shutdown, as well as some of the sensors I mentioned earlier, maybe I was talking to one of the supervisors as far as the harmonic balance. And so, for your concerns as far as the blades, anytime there's a disruption in that harmonic balance and it's not spinning perfectly, once it reaches a range, it'll shut down. And it takes about 45 seconds for it to shut down. So I think maybe your concern is maybe for it to fall apart and possibly grow. That's why the setbacks are where they are, because by the time the harmonic balance senses that it's starting to maybe break apart, and the composition of the carbon fiber and the composite of it, that it'll be almost shut down before it breaks down, and then it falls within that setback distance of 1.1 or nearly 700 feet. So the blades don't throw more. That's why I said from our industry's record that no landowner has been hurt or killed by a component of a turbine, including the blades, because of all the sensors that are on it for the safety aspects. Even if, for whatever reason, there's an earthquake and it collapses, it's going to collapse on itself. It's designed that way. It's been designed that way, the same way that cell towers, radio towers, they're all designed to collapse within themselves instead of just teeter or tip straight over.
Gentleman back there. Yes, sir.
Is it Ross?
Rod?
Right, okay. Thank you for your comments. You said just a little bit of that, I wanna make sure I heard you correct. You said your business acumen is if you ever have to decommission, you put stuff back the way it was. Your brochure doesn't say that. It puts it back into the use that it was before. I believe, Matthew, you said the other night that if you have to decommission, you'll cut that concrete down to 4 feet below the surface. That's not back the way it was. Am I missing something here?
From the surface side of things, as far as being able to continue farming it the way it has been for decades or generations.
What about tile lines and stuff that get cut? Like when you set up the project, you have an access road coming in. Does the transmission line follow that access road, or can it go a different direction?
We have a lot of collaborations with landowners to help us design, and we take their reasonable inputs to minimize the impact that we have. The access roads, a lot of the landowners will design their access roads. We don't have eminent domain, even though our lease is negotiable. We talk with each landowner. We haven't got the turbine site yet, but when we do, we'll come back. Those landowners will be able to move those turbines 50, 100 feet for whatever reason. We've identified a certain area to be some of the windiest spots of the top 60. And so we'll go to those landowners and say, okay, where does this look for you? How does that fit? You want even swaths? Okay, move it 20 feet, now you can get 4 swaths past it. Or, hey, you're on top of my main tile, okay, let's move it off of that. As far as the tile itself, a lot of times we get the tiling maps. Where we can parallel, we'll parallel. It's in everybody's interest. But from a construction standpoint, within our lease, for the construction as well as the operation terms, we are responsible for any activity that we've caused on that. And so we'll collaborate with them on those tiles to minimize the impact, but at the cost of the construction for the collection line, we're gonna have to intersect some tile. So we vow for the life of the lease to maintain the flow, which is, we know is the life phase of the farm. So we want to restore that flow. Sometimes, as you guys know, in tile repair, a 4-foot section fixes it forever. Even if it gets repaired and it fails, did we really fix it? No. So we'll fix it again. We may have to cap that line and rerun a new lateral. We definitely want to stay off the main. So again, that's where we get landowner information,
In
collaboration.
all fairness, my name is Paul Von Church.
Okay.
And my wife encouraged me to go to the meeting the other day in Wayland. And I'm a township trustee. And I was shocked to find out we are one of the targeted townships. And it said in your information piece I picked up the other day that you try to work with the local government people. As far as I know, I'm the head trustee. I have not been contacted by your company to lay out some of this. One of the responsibilities that we have as a township trustee is for the fire and rescue equipment. What kind of needs are, I have a couple questions. What kind of needs are for the construction crews? What kind of pressures are gonna put on our local fire department, our local rescue? And Ross, I believe that you said there's $2 million that's gonna go back to the townships. Is that per year? And how is that divided out? When you say in your projection $2 million, is that to be, and how many townships are you targeting?
Six. Yeah, six.
Could you read them off?
Six.
Yes. I will. Cannon, Jefferson, Marion, Scott, Trenton, and Wayne.
Okay, sir, real quickly, it's Keenan, like in the land,
Thank you.
Keenan.
That'd be Mount Union Bank.
Yeah.
So,
So with the 2026 construction date, that is the process. As far as, with the ordinance, one aspect, as well as the townships, the fire department's creating emergency response plan for a number of varieties of scenarios and how we handle that, what the plan is, if you're shy of some equipment,
so
getting that
I just
equipment,
put in
training.
a purchase order for a new fire truck a couple months ago.
Okay.
And then I find out about your project and we're a targeted township. I'm curious why we weren't contacted to anticipate these needs, because for a township like ours, it's no easy task to pay for fire and rescue equipment. So that's $2 million, when does it kick in? And how is it divided? Is that $2 million per year divided 6 ways? Is that $2 million over the 35-year life? How do we budget? I have to turn in a budget by March 15th. And I need to report back to the other trustees on how this project is affecting our fire department, our rescue workers, and our emergency personnel. I've seen you talk about the safety of wind turbines. They do catch fire, and it's a horrific fire. There's no way to put it out with local utilities. I also know that ice storms just play heck with you guys, and you don't generate electricity. And Texas, who I see from some of your brochures, has a lot of wind farm activity, and they shut down and put the grid in jeopardy. Matter of fact, failure because of these ice storms. What do we have to do to ensure our local constituents are well served if the community, and it's a community project, we're all neighbors here. If we agree to allow this to happen, how can you ensure some of these things and these concerns?
Yeah, great question. So I think the first one I'll take is the money that would go to the township. So it's based on the infrastructure that is proportionate. It's based on the infrastructure in each township. So right now, these analysis is, I'm looking at how much land is signed in each township. So whatever, right now, it's just where the land's at, but once the infrastructure goes in, then it will be divided by the township. So if there's more infrastructure in your township, you would receive the bulk of that money. So it's too early right now to know how much money per each township.
Then how can you tell us there's gonna be $2 million, and how is it split out?
Because
Is it
there's
divided by 6? Is it per year?
It
I
would
mean,
be per
The
year.
guy asked about a business plan the other night, and I kinda thought, well, that's kinda crazy. But now I got to thinking about it, as I look at my responsibilities, when you tell me $2 million, can I take that to the bank right now? No, I can't. But in your projections, is that divided by 6? Is that per year, or is that over the 35-year life?
In the projections, using the 6 townships, that would be a split of $58,555 per year at this point.
50.
We have to look at the Iowa tax code, and we have a third-party tax professional that helps us put in the buckets of how much money each township is based on infrastructure, schools, county. That's how it's divided up. I can't just,
If you have more turbines, and again, that's where the project is driven by the landowners that want to participate, because we don't have eminent domain. And so, your question, Paul, no, we can't answer that question right now. In Matthew's numbers, it's 58,000 times 6 townships per year. But if that moves based off the land that is signed up in the project, they'll take with that certain monies with them, because we may have more turbines, more infrastructure in these 2 or 3 townships than we will here. So we can't answer what that is. Matthew was just giving numbers, and a lot of the stuff we don't have the answers to, because it is a 4 to 5 year process. We started in 2022 when we first came here.
But you have 3 other projects in Iowa, certainly you got some basis that you can give us some projections on what our needs for the fire. Don't do this to me.
No, I'm saying that's what it is, if it's.
I need to know, because I got a fire department I gotta answer to.
Okay.
What kind of needs and what kind of scenarios are our people gonna be taxed on?
correct, so the 3 other projects are in development as well as this one. And then with each township, like fire department and EMS, everybody will have a safety plan that we meet with and go through that safety plan. So it's not like we're gonna ignore the townships and just focus on the county, government, so.
We will collaborate with the townships, with the government at various things, as well as landowners in 2024, 2025, and 2026 before construction. Now, whether that's to say your township or your fire department, I guarantee it's not gonna be March 15th of this year. But we may be able to give you those answers, because we don't have the finalizer of all the land. And until we do, as far as the design of it, won't come with that. So once we do have that design, then we'll be able to share that with you. In the meantime, we can talk to you, as far as what we may be, and see how we could fill that gap. As far as buying a new truck at $2 million, I don't think we're gonna be able to do that. But I know that high-powered rescuers will offer training and things of that nature.
Just to speak on the training of the emergency personnel, like, there really is no difference for your folks, because our folks will take a casualty and bring them all the way to the ground. There will be no emergency personnel entering the tower. There's more hazard for somebody that doesn't understand the electricity and the risk associated with that. Our folks will rescue somebody if, let's say, there's a casualty, not a death, but if somebody falls, injures themselves, they have to get brought down to the ground. That's not gonna be the team doing that, that's gonna be our folks, and we bring it back. I think do the training a lot.
This lady has a question.
Yeah, I have 3 properties, and one of them we had to have an easement to get through that property to get to ours. If you do a contract with you guys to go through that, and we sign a contract, does that mean that you still own that, it can do whatever you want? If we put in a turbine and then decide that we don't want it, do you guys still own that easement? Because we signed a contract,
We still have that lease, yes.
and that's what I thought, so you can kind of do whatever you want.
Yes.
If I sign something that says, yeah, you have the right of way to the easement that we already have with the other owner, you can still go back to our property through that easement, so you basically own that property, or can do whatever you want.
We don't own the property, but if you sign
No,
that,
but if you lease it, you can do what you want because of that lease.
Yes.
we can do not everything we want, but what's going towards the project, yes. So like,
So we
say,
basically lost the easement to go from this farmer's property to get to ours because we signed over that easement. So you guys,
Yeah, you're asking about an easement that you already have in place.
Yes.
Our easement is for wind and own. So when you have an easement for right of way through your property,
through somebody else's property to get to our property.
yeah, we're not gonna interfere with that easement. It'd be just like the same as an easement under the ground for a driveway or an underground easement for a pipeline or a power line overhead. We have to stay out of those easements that are already in place. They give us the right to cross them. So say you have a pipeline in your field and we end up with turbine in your field.
we wanna get a cable across there for wherever we place that turbine. We have to stay on those people's easement. They'll give us a right to cross it, just like a railroad or anything else, but that's all we can do is cross it. We can't come in and say, we have the power to terminate your easement for a driveway just because we have easement for winds. No. Yeah. So,
You can't even go in there if we was to put one up and we say, no, we don't want it anymore.
no, that's not the way an easement works. If I came and negotiated an easement with you and you decided to sign and you had all the numbers, you had everything, and you just clarified that that's what you wanted to do, at that time, you're giving me the right to consider a turbine on your property. Even when you sign that easement, that's no guarantee that you're getting a turbine. It's the fact that you are being involved in the project that you possibly could if all the scenarios came to fruition, okay?
So or the easement that we have now, if you gotta go through their property to come to mine, if they said no, the person.
We can't go through there.
You can't go through.
No, we cannot go on a property that does not have an easement, period. It just doesn't happen. We cannot touch anyone's property that does not have an easement. If it's a wind easement or a collection easement, whatever type of easement it is, we have to work around you, okay?
In that scenario, we would go to your neighbors and say, look, your neighbor has signed with us, but in order for us to even consider designing her property into our project, we would need your property. If they say no, I'm sorry.
Okay, because they're in major
Yeah.
CRP stuff and all that, and I
That all
know
comes
they
in.
would not want anybody coming through that.
That all comes into
easement,
play.
but we need to get our property.
I'm gonna go with lady in the back.
We were told on Tuesday night by an individual that did a lot of research that this area is not really a very high wind velocity area. So how can you justify putting 60 wind turbines in this area?
Yes, great question. So the Met Towers that have been up since June of last year, we typically look at 15 months of data to get an average. And it could be where we look at that data in October, and if it's not to the levels that we would like to see, then we would cancel the project. But if it is meeting what we anticipate, then we know we can move forward with the project. So
Your
we'll
towers
see.
are set at 200, and you wanna put up turbines that are 650 feet.
It could be 650 feet, but the turbine we're looking at right now is 590.
I'll walk off 60 feet for you.
You haven't even given an answer, no questions yet, you just go.
So we need to have a prayer meeting, no wind for the next.
No wind.
Cell phones, wireless antennas. What's the disruption of trying to get signals and stuff once all these are put in place?
Yeah, great. I already ran some studies with some companies that look into all of the cell tower signals, FM, AM radios. Already met with the DoD, the Air Force, and I have those studies already back. I know where all the microwave lines that go, there's 6 of them that go from the cell towers throughout the project area, and that's part of the process of responsibly siting. So then you do not get into a situation where you're gonna disrupt people, 911 communication. So yes, it's part of the siting process.
So I'm gonna be able to get all my TV stations from that.
Yeah. How does that affect farmers that are trying to manage their crops with, using planes, crop dusting? You know, I mean, how's that gonna affect them? Like, if their neighbor puts one up where they would normally fly potentially over their neighbor's field to access theirs, how does that affect them?
I don't know.
I can answer that for you.
Technology,
Yeah, right.
I believe it's
Go ahead.
satellite is what they use, and we would not be.
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, they're flying visually, right? I mean, just.
Yeah, he's-
I mean, I don't
It's not simple.
No, hold on, I wanna hear what he says.
Let's
'cause
have one
I just
person
wanna-
talk at a time, please. Thank you.
Go ahead, what were you saying?
So, I mean, you're not flying instrument conditions when you're crop dusting, right? That's all typically done during daytime, good visibility. Typically, I say that as a half question because I don't have any experience with crop dusting.
Can you speak up?
He just admitted he did not have any experience crop dusting.
But you're not doing it in the middle of the night, correct? Right? For those that are doing it, so, I mean, I think the simplest answer is that you're just not gonna fly into the tower, right?
Right, but if your neighbor has them up and you have to basically pass over your neighbor's fields to access that, what kind of impairment is that going to
Some of these
create?
questions were answered last night. When they crop
No, they were
dust,
not.
they have the ability to shut off turbines. So the obstacle's there, it's like you're thinking, and it's going to be there. So yes, the crop duster might have to change his approach into those fields and run parallel with it. But they do have the opportunity to call the operations people and say, I've got my crop duster scheduled for 9 AM in such and such field.
It doesn't work that way.
Or however they identify it. And then the operations can shut down that unit. That way, they don't have to fly into moving blades. So I think what would be fair right now, since we're on this subject, is just to let him.
So, I don't know if you know, anybody knows me. I run the airport in Mount Pleasant. I'm also crop dusted for over 14 years now, and I've been in aviation for 30 years. Several of the things, I'm not attacking you or anything, I'm just trying to protect the farmers and the growers and
your
landowners,
life.
and my life, for that matter, at what it means. So I got a whole list. On the ag side, it does affect commodity. It does affect commodity protecting the crops because we have to higher our rates, application rates. So I mean, going from $9 an acre to spray, it goes up to $11 to $12 an acre to spray because it also increases our fuel because we have to use more fuel to turn around the turbines, mind you. Secondly, let me look at my notes.
Well, insurance too.
Yeah, it causes our insurance to go up from $25,000 a year for that 2-month span. We have a small window from R1 and R2 stage on corn. Beans, usually done by ground rig, but I've talked to ground rig operators from Kimgrow, south of here, and Lee County, which y'all don't care about Lee County because there's not much wind up there, just like here. But, sorry, that's my soapbox. Yeah, insurance, higher price. Sometimes we have to refuse to spray because I asked the gentleman, what's the guy's name here? Matthew. Is there a chance that behind the turbines they would cause, disruption of airflow behind there? Correct? Yes. Which and we both agreed it would cause drift from the target area if we're trying to protect. And with that being said, we had tar spot here last year. We had some, not brown leaf, that was up in northern. That causes disease to spread across the field as well. The reason I know this, I went to Carroll, Iowa. Carroll, Denison, and Sac City, Iowa, northwest Iowa. They get a lot more wind than we do. I had to shut down because of wind, and they shut me down because of the wind. 15 mile an hour is our cutoff. That's what the label says on the pesticide label. Herbicides, insecticides, fungicides, even some nematodes. But
What was the cutoff?
15 mile an hour.
15?
15.
Keep going.
That's what the label says. We have to follow the label because that's a state rule and chemical rule. We contacted them, or the owner of the company at that time, spraying business I sprayed for 5 years ago, was fine. We've had a contract with CPS up in Glidden to fly. We had 12,000 acres to spray. We contacted them on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Say we were going to be up there Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday spraying. It's 12,000 acres, my dad and I. There's a wind farm with over 75 turbines, and they're anywhere between the one in New London and the ones y'all are talking about. They're middle-sized. Asked them to shut them off. We're going to be spraying from this time to this time because we gave them a window 8 to noon, just 4 hours to get. I think in the out of the 12,000 acres, there was 3,500 acres in the wind turbines that we had to spray. Asked them to turn them off several times. Crickets. landowners. That's the co-op to get a hold of the landowners as well. That's the co-ops to do it. We spray for a lot of co-ops around here. Crickets. So the fact that they say they will turn them off is a lie.
You're comparing us to another company that we have no.
Two other
idea
companies,
who you're even talking about.
Mid-American Energy and the one up in Northeast Iowa, Old Wine and Charles City. What's to tell you the difference? I'm just saying I haven't had good experience with it. So I had to fly around them when they were actually turning.
So in your experience, then how many wind towers have you flown around in your career?
Galesburg, Iowa, Northwest Iowa, Northeast Iowa, Southwest Iowa. There's a small one over in
Hundreds, thousands of times?
No, not really. Because we actually had to turn work down because of them. We did that because they had to be treated.
But it does get done.
Not all of it.
And
It does not all get done. Out of an 80 acre field, 60 of acres of it might get applied because of the potential drift and hitting the blade. The blade spinning.
So are you talking about a situation when the crop is past its stage of growth that can be done from the ground?
No.
So it can be done from the ground?
No. It's corn.
That you didn't answer my question. Is it past the stage of growth that it
It's
cannot
past
be
it.
done
Yes.
from the ground?
Past it.
It has to be done from the air.
It has to be done by air, and ground rigs can do it, but they're going to tear down a lot more.
That was my question.
Yeah, it's going to tear down a lot more corn.
Which means we lose
I mentioned
business.
earlier that all developers are not created equal. Again, RWE, that is their foremost, because without landowners, we don't have the next project. We have the ability, as I said, to turn the turbines off in 45 seconds from turning. So if you're spraying her field and his field and another 3,500 acres, it's a least negotiated item that we have on our lease.
So
if you're not signed up, you wouldn't know about that, but we do work with pilots. We get calls in other projects, 4:30 in the morning, hey, at daylight, I'm going. It's easy to flip the switch. I don't know why Mid-America and some of the others aren't doing it.
You just said, though, RWE has 100 projects. What about in Iowa? You said you don't have that many projects. You're in development, so you don't actually have wind farms that ag is flying around, right?
Sure, we don't have any in Iowa, but Iowa
Okay.
is not the only state you spray in.
I spray in Illinois, Iowa,
No,
Missouri.
I mean, not you, I mean in general. Illinois gets sprayed. We have.
I spray in Illinois. They don't shut them down either.
We have farms in Illinois that we've done this for. That's.
Why didn't they shut them down then? Do you run the one over by Galesburg, northeast of Galesburg, by Roseville and all those areas? Okay then. The track record for them turning them down, I'm not saying you, but you don't have that many developments in Iowa. I haven't had good experience with it. And it's very dangerous. And no matter the fact that it does interrupt with our altimeter, which captures our distance above the ground, AGL, and our GPS systems. We do visual VFR, visual flight rules. We have to, or marginal VFR. But with that being said, at the same time, when we have to fly around these things to get the crop protected, we have to fly around the other ones, and we have to not only watch for ourselves, but other pilots in the area too, other ag pilots, because they have to fly around these things. Now, that's the ag side. Not to mention, for the ag part, with the compaction, with all the equipment they bring in, compaction doesn't allow plants to grow either. But anyway.
So I appreciate what you do. You pilots that do that, you're daredevils. You're kind of a thrill seeker.
No.
No.
Ron, he wants to come home to his family at night. He's got to fly around the poles that are in the way.
It is a dangerous job, and I appreciate what he does. That's not what I meant by that at all. But what I'm saying here is, you do the job and you continue to do the job, and it's relatively safe, because as far as I know, I don't think there's been a turbine in the United States hit by a plane.
Yes, there has.
Yes.
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 Mom.
Okay.
Yeah. In the family.
In my family, mom.
So.
Go to the PASS program.
My point of this is, I have also talked to pilots that fly in and out of wind turbines as a profession, as you do, and the most of the responses that I get from them is once they get comfortable with it as doing their job, that's just another thing, another part of their job that they have to do.
So it's okay for you to marginalize his job, but when he was comparing you to other companies, you were marginalizing that.
No, I'm not.
That's exactly what you
Yes.
Let's not argue.
So So.
Let them know the next question.
Well, he brought up a lot of questions about the aviation and all this stuff. I wanna clear them all
Have
out.
fun.
Okay, I'll try to take a minute on each one. So, most of the ones that you talk about, this ADLS system for the light detection, they're non-farming communities, so they don't have to spray around it, and there's not much air traffic, low-level air traffic at that areas. I've done the research. I have a friend at the FSDO in Ankeny. I texted him actually when we walked in here when I saw this. This is not approved by the administrator in Iowa yet. Nebraska, yes. Nebraska FSDO in Lincoln, yes. North Dakota and South Dakota, yes. Guess what? That's not Iowa, first of all. ADLS is approved on certain farms out there. Trust me, I know the guy. I talk to him at least every 2 months because they have a 135 operator here. We have to deal with them. I got to get inspected. If anything is told,
There's no planes that are gonna trigger the ADLS or?
well, it says radar. Radar is how these things read.
Right.
I'll tell you today, I went down to John Toon, Nashville, picked up people. And I wanted to mention about the wind as well. Radar is the most unreliable source in aviation. We have to use it because 3,000 feet and above, yeah, they can pick us up on radar in Chicago, Minneapolis Center, and Kansas City Center. That's our local centers here for air traffic, air ATC. So first of all, radar is very unreliable. So this, in my opinion, is not an FAA thing. It's a detect company. That's not FAA.
How long did they lose you on radar? How long did they lose you?
They lost me for about 85 miles on radar today. That's reliable. I'm at 18,000 feet. 18,000 feet. You take 18,000 divided by 5,280. That's over a couple miles in the air. So, the biggest thing here I've noticed there too is, and I've got a friend who does it out of Fort Madison, AirBack. AirBack will refuse to land near those things, or fly near those. They have to fly 200 feet above the ground sometimes because they don't fly in VFR conditions all the time. And they have to fly at low level in order to land and pick somebody up on the highway that had a crash or an accident. Or if somebody falls out of those windmills or works on those windmills and get hurt, AirBack.
You're talking about for helicopter light flights and things
Yes.
like that? Yeah, there are FAA regulations, we work with those companies all the time. Actually, I've talked to a regional one out of St. Louis, and he says, you guys provide life-saving landing spots. He said, I may not be able to land in the field because it's soggy, there might be crops that get sucked up into my system. He goes, I can land on your access roads. Otherwise, I may have to go down to the church 5 or 6 miles away. Now I gotta have an ambulance pick up the sick person or injured person and drive 5 or 6 miles away. He goes, that's 5 or 6 miles of life-saving minutes. And if I can land on your access.
That's good for St. Louis. That's good for St. Louis.
Well, FAA is FAA with the helicopters and their regulations.
Yeah.
They do have some, with helicopters, you have to have more spotters. And so if there is an accident, you have the spotters in order to be able to make that a safe landing for that individual.
And then 2 other things, like I said, the wind. And then I want to get to the AC70/7460AB reads advisory circuit from the FAA has to be so many miles out from an airport because in proximity of an airport. 200th Street is 7.8. No, sorry, 4.6. 7.8 is Winfield. They said within, according to this radar right here, 9 miles. So automatically it's in proximity to the Mount Pleasant Airport. I just want to say that.
So this system needs to be approved by the FAA, so the FAA, they could not approve the system if they deem it as.
Right, so then we have lights flashing all night, because they can't put the
That's why we would
ADLS.
like to propose a system in front of the FAA.
It's reversed. They're out until they detect.
Yeah.
And that radar goes out. 6 miles.
And the answer to his question about the oil, I have a picture when I flew around them of it leaking oil all the way down the beam. I have video evidence of it.
I will say that the older turbines do not have that catch basin.
Yeah.
Because with anything, innovation happened, and over time, they added the catch basins that would capture all that oil.
How long ago?
Maybe since 2013.
This was 2023 last year. I took a picture.
Yeah, but that turbine was not from that. Like, you can capture that picture in 23, but that turbine was probably in the ground prior to 2013. Yeah.
They're the ones that you took pictures of and put in, not.
And in the eyes, so, yeah.
Thank you for your input.
Okay.
This
What-
gentleman, no,
Oh, I'm sorry.
This gentleman here.
Couple questions and then some comments. How, like, on a six, can everybody hear me?
Stand up.
Sorry. On a 640 acre spot, how many turbines would you put up?
1 to 2.
Okay. On these farms, I was looking at maps, there's like seven to nine, and I've seen contract proposals with people that have 9 on a 640 acre parcel. So how many are you gonna put on a
Yeah,
640 acre?
so when you look at a setback map, we're taking into consideration the setbacks from the homes, the roads, and also turbines, from turbines. From a turbine that has a wind direction that's hitting it parallel, we have to be 2,900 feet from each other. If the wind's coming in perpendicular, then those turbines can be 1,900 feet from each other. So with the larger turbines, there's gonna be larger setbacks. So in the pictures that you see where the turbines are closer, those are where the setbacks in those counties allowed, I mean, from the public right of way, the property line, the residents, they were able to fit more turbines on those parcels. And those were smaller machines, so they did not need to have that turbulence. The wind hitting the turbine, it makes turbulence, and the best case for us is to site them further apart so the wind stops and is constant to hit the next one.
Can I keep going?
Yep.
For the supervisors, or what is the purpose of these meetings? Like, is it to
Just
figure out
a
if you're
question
doing it, or
and answer.
are you guys trying to get more people, or what is the purpose?
It's basically a public forum where you can ask them questions. They can give you answers.
Okay.
Back and forth.
Can you
Let's,
get-
let's not get into arguments.
No,
I mean,
I
this
didn't
has
know.
happened Tuesday night, this happened again tonight, and I don't appreciate it. We're all.
Yeah.
We don't appreciate it either.
We don't appreciate them.
We don't appreciate having to even have
And
this.
I agree. Both
And 2 years
parties.
after it was first started.
Calm it down.
Yeah, that it wasn't aggressive, I was just like, are you guys trying to convince more people, or find new people for easements, or are you guys helping with decisions, whatever? Can you get out of a contract? Like, if somebody signs up now, and then, you know, in the 2 years, you guys still wanna do it, but they don't wanna do it, can they get out?
No, they cannot. It's a lease. I mean, it's a binding contract.
Easement.
I mean, it was agreed to for us to develop a project.
Right.
But we could terminate it if we do not end up developing the project.
I was just reading online with people who did sign an easement or a lease, and it took 2 years to gather research, and they don't wanna do it anymore, and they can't get out, so everyone's like, you're screwed. Because you got the money, so I just didn't know, just for people who've done that, so you're locked in, okay. So do you have any current wind data? Cause I was the guy with the average wind speed. Do you have any, you've got 15 months, do you have any, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I mean, do you have any
We
idea?
wanna wait till 15 months to even start assessing.
Do you have no
The
idea
wind
yet?
data is coming in at that time, but I haven't looked at it yet because I want that average of 15.
Okay. What is the biggest hurdle? Because I mean, you guys do have an answer for everything, safety and easements and data that nobody speaks in meters. I do, I'm a data guy, so when I'm listening to Cliff here, the cut-in speed, he can't spray at 15, the thing doesn't turn on until 14, right?
Cutting speed is
9 meters per second? Okay, so the thing won't be spinning. Is it when you have 9 or 2 in a 640 acre spot, do you still have a 650 foot object? It doesn't matter if it's spinning or not, you can shut it off, you still gotta fly around it. Do you guys see that as a danger or no? Because you're saying people get used to it, it's fine, he's freaking out. I was almost a crop duster too. But I mean, it's still an object, I mean, the concentration. Pardon?
I've never done it either. I said I had a crop duster told me that after he finished, that he got comfortable.
So I'm asking, who decides on how concentrated they are in these warm squares?
A lot of times the landowners, as far as who have signed up and who hasn't. we can only develop on a participating land. So, in addition to some of the questions these folks have here, they may have some other questions, other stipulations, and we can agree and bring them in and participate at different levels,
And there's other things, like I have to work with my engineering team, my electrical team, my environmental team, and I gotta also, listen to the Iowa DNR. They grant me permits, federal permits are needed, so your build area, out of 30,000 acres, my build area can be maybe only 1,500 acres that I have to work with when you layer in all of the development, steps to it. So in the end, I wish I can give everyone turbines, I would want that, but I don't think that this is.
I'm almost done, I promise.
We need to get
Yep.
to some other people that have an opportunity.
You guys do have an answer for things like death and lights and flicker and location and 2 miles and 1,300 feet or 1,000 feet, whatever that is. This is from, you guys are a German company, correct? Okay. So this article, Germans fall out of love with wind power, and the main reason is they don't want to look at it. Who wants to look at these? Who does not want to look at it? Okay. So I have pictures here. I spent the afternoon doing what I do for a living, and like this is what Olds and Wayland will look like. If you want to pass those around, nobody has to look at them. But anyway, in Germany, there's a huge outcry in Germany. They don't want to look at it anymore. And your CFO is saying that they won't meet their energy goals at the rate that people are protesting. They need to be putting up 4 gigawatts per year, and they don't have enough land to even put up 1 gigawatt. And they're pushing governments to relax the environmental studies and the planning codes so that they can keep putting them up. And the quote from him is, Germany should not forget that it is in competition with other countries when it comes to investment in renewables. Businesses can only spend their euro and dollar once. If you spend it in the US, the plant will be up and running within a year's time, but it takes 5 to 7 years to get approval in Germany. There's no farms down here, and we're very, very close to Chicago. And what you said early on Tuesday, that everything's made in the US, I don't believe that, because there's a ton of information that these things are shipped on ships, the blades, on barges, and they're trucked around. It's not getting made in the US. And you're going back in your data from your sound thing saying, hey, they won't be over 50 decibels. We just don't have any data. So please be careful manipulating people who don't know things in meters, and you're dodging questions. It's very, very disheartening to see a foreign company telling people things. So I have all these photos for everybody. If you want to see what this place will look like with wind turbines, it's all the aspect ratio. I got it.
Answer, and then we're gonna go to the lady.
Thank you for that. I just want to clarify with GE. For GE, that's an American company, and their turbines are built in Tampa. We can't control what parts they use. It's a global economy. For that type of machines, we have 16 out of our 32 wind farms are GE machines. So we're buying from that American company, but we don't control where they're sourcing all of their parts. So that's where I was kind of clarifying that we buy American, and those wind farms prove that, but we can't choose where they're bringing those components.
All right, the lady, thank you.
Hi, thank you for being here tonight. We really appreciate the opportunity to be able to talk about this. First question, and I'm hoping your answer is no. Are you in charge of the Schuyler County wind farm? Oh, good, because we own a farm in Schuyler County. We didn't put a wind turbine on it, but a lot of our neighbors did, and they regret it. Some of the reasons for that: torn up roads cutting across their fields, noise, sleep issues, promises not being kept by the company, but I understand that's not you. So I have a couple questions. What's the largest wind turbine height in the United States?
I mean, there's turbines being developed at 700 feet.
Right
but
now?
actually in the ground.
Yeah.
I believe it's 620.
620, okay. So, what's common? What's common?
It's 600.
600, okay. So I hate to use the word farm because as a farm family, I just find it so disrespectful when people talk about a wind farm, but I'm going to use that since that's the common lingo. We're talking about a wind farm here of 60 to 90, I've heard, 650 feet tall. That's not like what's in New London or the 3 that's in Centerville. I was going to sign up for the tour over there, and I wondered, will that tour take me to 60 to 90 wind turbines that are 650 feet tall?
That will take you to a wind farm that's 139 turbines at, I believe it's 495 feet.
Okay.
But why I want to bring people there is because of the height difference. I mean, the sound is going to be adjusted for what a 650 would with the setback.
Okay.
So it will kind of be related.
Okay, so my first concern, I think, is just the sheer size of this farm, how big they're going to be, although from what you've told me, there are bigger, like 130 compared to 60 to 90. So honestly, that makes me feel a little bit better. I'm just here to learn. I love my neighbors and I love my town and my county, so I just want to learn everything I can. So sheer size really concerns me. I feel a tiny bit better that there aren't going to be 130 of them. 2, noise. Is the sound lady, I wasn't here Tuesday night, is the sound study lady here? Darn. I was going to ask, who funded her research? Was it RWE that funded her research, or was it an independent evaluation?
So her research is done with the company she's hired for. I just hired a third-party expert to come answer questions because I don't know noise, I don't know how to measure it. That's why I hired an expert to come answer those questions.
And that was kind of you, and I appreciate that. Sound really concerns me, so I've done a lot of research myself. The fact that there needs to be sound studies as part of these projects tells me that sound is an issue. All of the research that I've done says that it's sort of like nonstop road noise. Now, that's not like a freight train, right? It's just nonstop road noise. But I don't know about you, but no thank you, because I like eating with my family on my deck on my farm, and I want to hear each other. I don't want to have to fight over road noise. So sheer size is my first issue, and noise is the second. Third, I want to talk about property value just a second. The counties who have been successful at keeping wind farms out of their counties have done it by hiring appraisers who are not affiliated with the wind companies. They keep them on retainer, and they do before and after property values, which is what we'll be personally having done, because your values will go down. And Tim, my estimates that on my research were close to yours. It's up to about 50%. I don't think I'm a greedy person. I don't want my value of my property to go down anywhere near 50%. So that's my third issue. First is sheer size, second is noise, and third is property values. Fourth, Matthew, where do you live?
Woodridge, Illinois. Outside of Chicago, about an hour south.
Oh yeah, that's probably a nice part. How about you, Roth? Where do you live?
Fillmore, Indiana.
Indiana? Okay. How about you, sir? I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Alex, I live in Florida.
Florida? How about you, sir?
Central Missouri, just on the edge of the Ozarks and the plains coming across Kansas, so farmland, Ozarks.
Yeah, perfect. So I heard there's like 6 to 9 local jobs, maybe, that would be associated with this project. Am I right on that number? I know I'm not holding you to it, but approximately.
Approximately for this size of a farm, and that's the operation
Folks, yeah, perfect. So my neighbors might benefit from that. And is it true that the energy generated by this wind farm, the energy goes to the highest bidder, and therefore likely isn't going to power 90,000 homes in Henry County? I don't even think there are 90,000 homes in Henry County, but anyway, am I right on that too? No, thank you. Okay.
Yeah, so how electricity works, it's going to go the path of least resistance.
Okay.
So with the generation from the turbine, the electricity, it goes through the collection lines that's underground, that feeds a substation that we have to build for the area. It's going to go where needed, so that substation will release to the distribution lines throughout the community, but it's so much power that the excess power goes onto the grid, and it will go wherever power is needed. Who we sell to is whoever would like to buy our power. It could be the co-op, It could be Mid-Am, it could be Alliant, it can be, Walmart, whoever would wanna buy our power, we will sell to.
Right, so then we could benefit from the power. We
You will benefit.
could, we could, okay. Okay, wait, I'm still, okay, so I hear you talking about being a community partner, and I like community partners. I think we have a really strong community in Henry County. And I don't wanna be rude, but I think we might define community partner a little bit differently. And so the sheer size, the noise, the property value, not so sure about the energy, I might have been wrong on that. Those concern me, and that's why I think Chad, Greg, and Mark, I know you're here in the room, I think the overwhelming numbers indicate that the majority of people are not in favor of this, and I think you need to listen to us as constituents.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Standing up, yes, you sir.
I was curious if you could refer us to a community that you've done business in that where the neighbors around the land are that have signed the contract with you aren't forever pissed off.
Don't have.
Can you give us one? Like, because it seems like once they sign a contract, they've doomed your property and your investments to be devalued, and they've destroyed your skyline forever. So what's a sunset cost? What's that worth to a person?
Yeah, I would like to get you some landowners that is willing to talk to you. It's just that I have not worked on those development projects. I have my own projects. So I would like to follow up with you.
As a land steward and a landowner, my first responsibility is to my ground and also to my neighbors. And I just don't see how anybody would be happy with that. And I don't think you could provide me with one neighbor or a community that's happy after it's been established.
You done, sir?
Yes.
We'll go to Diana, and then we're gonna go back over here somewhere.
It told us a lot of things. Locally, there wasn't partial rentals that were smaller and blazed multiple times. That has happened. I don't care if it's a brand new thing, brand new car can have problems. So you're telling me that it's not gonna happen like leak oil because you got a cover? It happens. When you tell me that you're gonna give $2 million, well, a new fire truck would cost that, and the help that takes to take care of people, it takes more than $2 million. You keep telling us all kinds of things, and you're nice people, that's great, but your company isn't even local, it's from Texas. There was a long time ago, my husband said on the land around that they had done wind generation, and they ended up going to the electric company and got rid of it because there wasn't enough wind. We've had a Durarco. Remember the Durarco folks? Yeah. Well, I've been up in Houston, Cedar Rapids, and these great big buildings, they had lots of damage, the poles and everything. You can't guarantee that you're gonna be able to fix everything, because you can't. As far as, the local access energy, I spoke to a board member, and I also talked to the, manager, and Access Energy, which is the electric company that I use as a rural person, they're not doing anything with this at this time. That's where they get their electric is from Missouri. So that doesn't sound too good to me, because it's not gonna sound good with our electric bill. Because they're not paying. You keep saying all these things, and you believe them, but it's not really gonna help us.
Is there a question? Because most of us cannot hear you, and we've been going on for a few minutes now. Is there a question?
Access Energy is not a part of the process.
electricity. That's not gonna help us. They're not gonna save us any money with our electric bill.
Is this a question? I thought this was a question and answer session.
Well, I'm making a balance. You keep telling us all these things and how it's gonna get a return, how can you guarantee something? We don't even have the numbers for the gentleman in the township about the fire department budgets. How can we do that?
Okay, we have a couple more people that need to speak. I'm gonna go to the lady, the gray hair, I'm sorry.
Friends. First of all, I think I made a new friend.
Silver.
Yeah. I
Wisdom.
have 3 questions. One is about the derecho, which this lady mentioned. There is a wind farm over the border from Missouri into Kansas that was hit by tornado, whatever kind of storms. We had a derecho. Actually, we've had a couple of them nearby here. What happens if some of these blades are injured by that? What is the time frame? Like, how do you know? Are you going to be in there in a week to fix it? Is it going to take a year, 2 years? What happens in that instance?
Yeah, great question. So we have to work with the county, with the roads commissioner to make sure we have a safe path, the roads that we want to use. So it may not happen in a week, but we have to take all the safety precautions in place to swap out that blade as soon as we can.
So if it's injured beyond repair and it has to have a new tower, new blades, is that something you work with the landowner, or that's written into your contract? Is that a guarantee that it's not going to be like the ones in Kansas that have been there for years and there's pieces of them, some of them are hanging, that kind of thing?
Correct. We're obligated in our contract to anything that's falls off the turbine or crop damages. We personal property damage, and then we do fix the turbines, and then we do pay for, say, there's crop damages.
Okay. Another question, you mentioned that a substation would be built. Where would that be built, and how would that all be connected?
Great question. So the substation has to be adjacent to the 345 line that's 2 miles west of here, and then the collection lines that are coming from each turbine underground meet at the substation.
Okay, and is that, from the other night, the information was those lines are buried 4 foot deep?
I believe that's what's in the ordinance.
Okay. And then it was brought up at the supervisors meeting today about not being close to right-of-ways, so it can't be like along the road or anything like that, so it has to go across fields or other people's properties. So if I'm next to someone that has a turbine and I have an acreage or a farm field, how does that work for you to go through my property?
So we are not allowed to go on your property one bit. We don't have eminent domain, but for the right of way, they don't want us to use the right of way and go parallel with the right of way, which we would not do. We would get crossing agreements or crossing approval from the county that we would bore under and not interfere all of the active infrastructure within the right of way. Utilities.
And you can go up to 8 miles with those lines? 4 foot? Yeah.
What about the, one other question I have, what about the owners of RWE? When I was doing my research, it shows that the parent company is RWE. A big percentage is investment companies. It looks like the nation of Qatar owns part of your company.
9%.
9%. And then also the company of BlackRock, which many people are familiar with. So is there any American ownership at all of the company that you work for?
Yeah, great. Thank you for the question. It's a publicly traded company. I own shares, so I guess I am a part owner. Just like anyone can buy Apple, other countries buy Apple, American companies.
Okay, so I didn't bring the printout, but there's like employee owned is maybe like 3%. Is that close? Okay. Okay, and then I have one health question about flicker. I have a daughter who suffers from seizures sometimes. The flicker, I know, can be a problem with photosensitive people if they have trouble with strobe lights, that kind of thing. So if my neighbor puts up a windmill tower and I have somebody in my home that's photosensitive and can possibly have a serious health effect like seizures, I am just expected to keep my blinds closed all the time, so that's not an effect.
So I would like to work with the landowners we assigned to the project and any other concerns with other landowners. If we do have an issue or a concern like that, we can then curtail the turbine. Curtailment is just stopping the turbine. At the time of when that scenario with the curvature of the earth, the time of the year that the sun is at, there's no clouds. If the conditions match up perfectly, then there would be shadow flicker, and we would curtail no matter the perfect conditions with the cloud cover and that. Take that out of the equation. Just knowing the curvature of the earth and where your home is in that shadow.
So how am I going to know that until I have the wind turbine next to me?
They can do a shadow flicker survey, and if you express concerns, they can actually put measuring equipment out ahead of time and determine if you're.
So you're going to do that for an individual on this multi-million-dollar project?
We are going to do that for every turbine location.
Anybody that has special needs children in that regard, please let us know whether you're participating or not. The more information we have, the better we can design it to minimize the impact and maintain the health, safety, and welfare of the community. So in that case, please reach out to Matthew, and we do. Some of those studies we definitely incorporate, from our setbacks with the county and whatnot. We'll have that flexibility.
I would also be interested, as this gentleman in the back said, in speaking with other people that have had similar effects or similar situations in other areas where you've had projects, to see if what you're saying you will do, you actually do.
Thank you. Just going to go over here to the gentleman.
I've got a couple of questions. One's gonna be directed to the Board of Supervisors. Will anybody answer from the Board of Supervisors? My question is, have you reached out to any other counties about wind field farms in other counties or not? Or has this been you guys talking about it? Where I'm going is, I talked to a former Board of Supervisors from Butler County. They shut it down, windmill farms. There's a lot of them up in their area. They shut them down. They went in and passed a resolution that there would be no windmill farms built in Butler County.
Hey,
And it was about a mile and a half from towns with a windmill, and at least a 3/4 of a mile from houses and buildings. And he says, you know what? We haven't heard from a windmill company since then. They come in once and they left. We've never heard from another one. Now now my question is, have you reached out to other counties?
The only person I've talked to in O'Brien County, which is clear up in the northwest portion of the state, is the auditor. I have not spoken with any individuals other than the auditor about.
That's fine, but it's something that I think as a board should do some research with other counties. And this guy, he's retired, but he was on the board when this all took place. So it might do you some good research to do some of this with other counties and see what their feeling is. But then my other question is where's your graveyard gonna be? Now, do you know what I'm talking about?
There's a lot of non-recycling from blades that have been hit by lightning, have gone through their worn-edge state, and because of that, then there wasn't a whole lot of use for them. Just like now, plastic is recyclable. They're making swimwear out of it. Because there was a supply, it created a demand. That demand is now integrating recyclable from the manufacturers, but also because of that stockpile, they're able to use that in repurposing. A lot of you guys that are working with concrete, you know that fiberglass, put it in the concrete, adds strength and stability to that concrete. We're now recycling that carbon fibers, repurposing it back into the concrete and some of our own foundations. Some other manufacturers will pick up the torch and they're creating outdoor furniture, outdoor patios, flooring, and things of that nature. So the invention, I always get that cliche mixed up, but the mother of invention has created the demand because there's a supply. Now you're gonna start seeing those going down. So from stockpiling of that, RWE was one of the first companies with one of their offshore programs to sign a contract for recycling blades. And so we will continue to do that as a company that is a steward of our industry to maintain the stewardship for your land as well.
One of the main components in a blade is a resin that holds the fiberglass to the wood and the structure that's inside that. There's also technology out there that they have now that will break that down, separate that, and get the resins separated from that and be able to reuse that product. So, as he said, as this progresses, there is becoming more and more companies out there that will figure out ways to reuse and recycle these products.
We're gonna go to the lady next, and then I'm coming back to you, gentlemen, and then we'll get to you. Go ahead, Nancy.
So, I was an animal behaviorist at the University of Iowa for 17 years. I know that animals are greatly affected by infrasonic and ultrasonic noises. I know that these fluorescent lights are putting off ultrasonic sound because before we did any kind of testing, we would check out our environment. We have not talked about how that affects wildlife, how that affects our livestock, how the bat population is expected to be reduced by 85% in the next several years, and one of the reasons is wind turbine collisions. Can you tell us about that a little bit? Also with raptors, golden eagles, red-shouldered hawks are especially susceptible. There's lots of studies.
That is part of our studies that we are doing as well as continue doing, or some of those that haven't been done will be done before construction. Migratory Bird Act, Endangered Species Act, actually the biggest cause of the death of bats is the fungicide that is brought into the caves by humans, just trying to explore the caves and such. So, but there are 3 endangered species of bats: the Indiana bat, the brown bat, and the tricolored bat. Those are all species that is part of our environmental check. And because of that, because of the wetlands, the relationship to the mosquitoes, is a bat habitat. We actually put up netting to try to catch the bats. I'm not kidding you. We put little radios on these bats that we catch in the nest, and then we follow them back to find out where they're at. So that way we can identify their habitats so that we are friends of the environment and the habitat. So we have to do setbacks. That's in part of our studies and part of our map overlay for the health, safety, and welfare.
Will you get a chance to see those studies before these wind turbines go up?
Oh, yeah. That is part of our site, and that's part of why, how everything is connected, from the ordinances to the environmental checks to the participating, non-participating landowners, the shadow flicker, the autism children and studies and things of that. We have that flexibility as long as the ordinances, if you're going to block it out, it greatly reduces it. So from the bat standpoint, otherwise we may end up having to put in smaller towers, lower overall heights, and that ends up being more turbines, which is even more useful.
So wait, one more follow-up question. So have these studies started? How long will they go on?
Yes, so we started the studies in 23, and they last about 2.5 to 3 years, to about 1 year.
1 year into it?
1 year into it.
So we need 2 more years of studying
Yes.
these bats before these turbines are even considered?
Yes.
Okay, gentlemen, yes, you.
Okay, so I know you guys have said that there have been no landowner deaths, but how easy would it be, like, if, say that this goes through and these start getting up, kids are gonna wanna try to go out and climb them. So I've never been to the base of one, like how easily can a kid get up there to try to climb it?
Great question. In the ordinance, it stated that the access door has to be 15 feet off the ground, and then there's a ladder that, it will have a lock on it, so you cannot climb.
Plus, there'll be a Navy-style dog hatch doors, and they're designed that only people that need to be in there get in there.
Gotcha, okay.
Thank you.
I know
Thank you.
you two gentlemen have been waiting. Whomever wants to go first, Ms. Freely or I don't need it.
Go ahead.
That's fine. Few things. One, you stated last Thursday that you guys have handed out money to farmers that have signed up for this. Is that correct?
Part of the lease, yeah. There's
Okay.
development rent.
So you've given money to people to do this, correct?
Just
Okay.
get a lease.
Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. So this company that you work for has forked out a lot of money to do this project. You state that you have to do a 15-month wind test to see if it's even viable to do. I asked you if you had a business plan. You said, no, I don't. That's, again, that just blows my mind that you have no business plan. So, you are spending a lot of money to do something you don't even know you can do. Now, I understand that there's research you have to do, and there are things that you need to do, but why in the world would you give a farmer money for something that you don't even know you can do yet? What is the end game of your company?
Because they can get out of the contract, but the farmer can't.
Exactly. Because if you cannot do a wind turbine farm here because there's not enough money or there's not enough wind, why in the world would anybody want to invest in a company that just willy-nilly spends money and says, well, maybe we can do this? What is the end game of your company? What is the end game of your company?
Thank you. So we're here to develop a wind project. Now, we have internal data that says wind speeds are strong enough.
That's not what you just said otherwise. You're doing a study, and then we had people that said, this is on a done studies, and there's not enough wind here. So you're talking in circles
We
again.
are gonna look at our internal data to see and find out if the wind is good here through our other development steps. One of them being a 15-month local wind data collection. That's what the Met Towers are for. Now, this is all part of the business plan development.
No, you don't
process.
have a business
So
plan.
what
You don't have a business
company
plan.
has a business plan won't give you one. There's somebody that would give you their business plan. So anyway.
I don't know, I asked
this
for them
is
a lot,
part-
and they're happy to
this is
give
part
them
of
when
the
they're trying to
development
invest in
process.
something.
Once we get, say to a hang up, say there's not enough wind, there's too many environmental, concerns. All the money that we paid in signing bonuses and development rent, we never asked for that back. So
Yeah.
landowners, they made out good, the land.
But you still have
That in
the
the contract?
contract that says you can do anything you want.
No, it's only for the wind development project. That's it, that's it. And what do we do if there's something we cannot go ahead with the project? We terminate the lease and we move on to another area. Easy as that.
I don't know, that just seems like a really, really bad business plan.
There's a lot of
Oh, you
companies-
don't have a business plan.
There's a lot of companies that spend money to make money.
I get that,
Research and
but
development.
there's certain things that
This is
business,
part of the process.
there's certain things that you don't do in a business if you don't know you can do something. And I don't know what business experience you guys have, but I don't think you have a lot. So I see another end game in this. The other thing I have for you
We want
is,
to.
no, I have another question.
Let me answer the one you're at first. Whether it's the environment aspect, whether it's the wind speeds, whether it's the ordinances, we have to find out who is in the project and who is out of the project. Those that want to participate will design the project based on that. That's part of spending the money until we can get through that process of talking to each and every landowner, whether it's face-to-face in their kitchen or whether it's in public forums like this. We're happy to do it.
You're not
Those
bribing us.
that don't want to do it, that's fine. That's their property. I'll never be qualified telling them what to do with it.
Right.
I don't pay the taxes on the property.
All right.
But from that standpoint, if we do have a project, if we check all the boxes in those 5 to 7 years worth of studies, then we're gonna spend close to $500 million.
Of
You don't
federal
spend
funds.
$500 million building all of that without going through the necessary, which costs money. So,
Okay, my next one, no, I have one more. Okay, all right, one more. All right, that's fine. I'm not here to argue. What is the legitimacy of the people that are on your list? What is the legitimacy? Yeah, what, how, on your list that you have, it says, here's this map.
100%.
Wrong, 100% wrong.
How?
My name is on that list, and I signed nothing. Absolutely nothing.
There
My
you go.
wife did not sign anything, and I did not have anything to do with it.
What
And
list?
the map that you have.
I did not.
You just said, no, he said 100%.
The 100% to it.
The 100%. Here's another thing, and I'm gonna end with this. I don't trust any of you. There is so much crap that you guys are talking about that there is no trust. I don't know who said this, but something to think about. The bigger the lie, the more believable it is.
Thank you. Mr. Eagley, question?
I will need his name and his information to find out what list he's talking about.
The map, I told you, you didn't listen.
Right here. After the meeting is over,
Map right here.
you give your name to this gentleman. Mr. Eagley.
I just want to clarify a couple of things. What company is actually recycling your product?
It's out of New York. I know that, and I don't know the name, but I can give that to you. It's a New York-based company. Yeah.
Products would have to be hauled all the way to New York for recycling.
You know what? I don't know that, so I can find out for you.
Okay. What process is used to separate the resin that you spoke of? I believe it was you. You said they separate the resin.
Jim said the rest of it. Okay, I don't think we have experience in doing that.
So we can hear each other. Please keep it down. Background.
Just would like to know the process and how you separate the resin from the fiberglass. And then what height do the brown bats, what's their average flight for a brown bat? You might know that, ma'am.
I'm not an expert in that, so I can't.
Their average height, go ahead, do you know?
I don't know what your question is, but like her, I'm not that expert.
What height is the average flight for a brown bat?
How high do they fly?
50 feet. The ordinance that we're being asked to change is to bring those blades down to 50 feet. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Bill, do you have a question? You can stand. Okay. That lady has not had a question. Either one, the lady sitting down or the lady standing there. I just pointed that direction.
Okay, my question is, how exactly is this gonna benefit me? And what are the negatives that are gonna affect our community?
So there's indirect benefits from landowners that do not sign up, like the roads. A past project it's a 300 megawatt project, so same size as this, in Decatur, Illinois. We upgraded 80 miles worth of road to be able to bring in the equipment, and then we make sure that road is just as good or better than the existing road when we finish construction. And most of the time it ends up being better. So indirectly you'll benefit on the roads, and those are paved, not gravel. The taxes that we provide, the number to the county alone is, over the 35 years is 68 million to the county, so 1.9 yearly. So the county can do with that new tax revenue what they see fit. So maybe there's some benefits there.
Obviously, you're creating energy. Where is this energy gonna go? Is it gonna go back to our community, or is this gonna be farmed out to separate communities? And what is it going to do to our bills, our utility bills? Because I know that I lived in New London, and they put up a windmill that was supposed to reduce our electric bill. However, our bill continued to climb in increments. I don't know how many years it climbed because I ended up moving. So I'm just curious.
We are a producer of electric. And so the substation that makes the connection to the transmission line and the distributor of it, that is controlled by the federal government. By law, we can't own the substation. We're gonna build it, we're gonna buy the land, and then we're going to donate it, because if the transmission line bought the land, they could use eminent domain. So that's one aspect from that aspect. When we put the electric on the transmission, it's their electric. We've provided them free electric that they don't have to spend time, money, or energy to produce. Now, what they
federal
do with
government.
it and what they do with your bills is their business. Now, with us supplying it, as this one lady said that left, getting electric out of Missouri, if we're supplying it here locally, they could use that in distribution. And as Matthew said earlier, that it goes to the path of least resistance. Doing electric is not like a bottle of water. You put it in a box, put it on a truck, and ship it around the country or around the world. The farther you send electric, the less powerful it is. You lose some of that power the further, the more miles you send it. And I'm talking 20, 50, 100 miles. Missouri, for example, they're using a lot of electricity that originally started in St. Louis, and by the time it gets here, if in fact that's where we're getting it, it's gonna be lower. Because of that, they have to charge you for your kilowattage your bills are. If we're supplying that electric, they're free to use it for local distribution. And in common sense says they would use it. Because of that, whether they keep your electric bills the same or maybe not raise them as fast as they have in the past, I don't control that aspect of it. All I'm doing is supplying them electric. Now, whoever we sell that to, that's like your corn. You can sell that anywhere in the country, and then it's just a paper aspect of local distribution versus the company that bought it, whether they're in Missouri, Florida, Washington, Michigan, Chicago, what have you. So we can sell it, like I said, just like your corn, but the electric here stays local.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna go to Chad.
Matt, do you want to address, you talked to the Access Energy manager last Tuesday night?
Yes.
Is there anything to add or subtract from that?
He couldn't tell me about if they're able to tap into the substation to make sure, the electricity that we produce would in fact stay here in the co-op. But I know the substation in Winfield is Alliant, right? There's a Alliant sign on it. Does the co-op control that 345 line on the west side all the way up in Ellis County? And are they gonna be the ones that take over that substation from us because they manage it? Is it the co-op or is it gonna be Alliant? That's through the MISO process that I have to submit to that application, which I will next month. And then the co-op, Alliant, and other utilities will look at our application to see what best fits their needs. So it's kind of right and kind of we'll see from what the utilities would like.
Okay, thank you. Chad.
Would you gentlemen speak to the process that was used to identify Henry County, specifically versus Howard County, Buchanan County, Fayette County, where there are turbines already? So what makes Henry County special? And even more so versus Jefferson or Washington?
So I call this the greenfield kind of process, and I have like an 18-step kind of threshold that I go to, and not everything's maybe gonna hit 100%, but you kind of look at what's the best, I guess, recipe. One, you look at the wind speeds. That's to start off. In this area, we see 7 meters per second is our threshold. I mean, wind turbines start cut-in speed at 3 meters per second, like 7 meters per second being their goal. Here we're seeing 7.2 to 7.4, depending on where that hub height is at. If a turbine is at, say, 600 feet, the hub height can be at, I'm using meters because that's what it's told, 98 meters, which is, I believe, 300, 340 feet, 330. and then maybe the hub height on a different design can be 110 meters. So the width is number one. Number two is offtake, and that's where a transmission line like the 345 west of here, you need to get the power onto the grid. So that's the second thing. The third is you want an area that doesn't have obstruction of wind flow, and that's why ag communities are sought after as locations, because there's not many obstructions stopping that wind flow. And then the fourth is, this is a strong one, is just the community support. And with 120 landowners signed on to the project already, getting going, in the first month we had 5, and then it just slowly started snowballing. So those are the core 4, but I have to look at what is the DOD. I submitted a letter to them. They circulated to the Air Force. They looked at our project area, and they looked at their training routes, and they let me know that this would be minimal impact to them, and that's a good sign when you get that return. I do have to submit a formal review to them and get further feedback. But then there's other things where I'm looking at where are the areas of like the brown and the tricolor bat, Indiana state bat. Does those bats really come into this area? That's with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. I have to submit to them. The ordinance, you look at an ordinance, is this workable for a wind project? I know there's ordinances out there that are not workable, and you can still develop a wind project, but it's gonna be a little bit tougher road to get there. We also look at the setbacks. We look at the density homes. Some areas are more dense than others. So there's a process to it. It's called, greenfielding, and Henry County was high on that list for what we looked for. Washington County, I know a company was up there. I don't know why they went up there, because the wind is even lower. Wind speeds actually, is it called, the city of Yarmouth? That's pretty much the highest wind speeds in southeast Iowa, and that's in the county next door. I know EDF was there, and then they left after several years, after they signed 10,000 acres of land. They're not gonna publicly share why they left. Maybe it was the bats, it was too close to the Mississippi, maybe there was other issues. That's just one thing that I could find out on this project after spending money going through these studies, and there's a hang up, then I have to, terminate the leases and look somewhere else. So this is just part of the development process. When you kick off, say 10 projects, only maybe 2 or 3 are gonna make it through to fruition.
So on the 7.2 to 7.4, how does that compare to Howard County, Chickasaw County, and northern Iowa before we get to Minnesota, or Northwest, where they're everywhere as you head towards Lake Okoboji? So.
Yeah, I'm not too sure where those counties are, but it sounds like Northwest Iowa. There are higher wind speeds over there. There's a lot of projects that are sited already in operation, but there's also a lot of projects that are in development in counties. We're in a county right now that has 4 other developers in there trying to sign leases. So we don't want to top lease someone else and get into a whole issue with signing land and who's gonna sign first. So I realize that there's higher wind speeds in other parts. It's just that this area is good wind speeds for a project, and no one was here. I wanted to see if the community would welcome a project, and 120 landowners have so far.
Now 119.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I have 2 questions. The first one is, the gentleman here said he had a question last Tuesday, and he asked you if you addressed it. You said you hadn't yet addressed it. You were waiting until you compiled all your information before you respond. The lady over here asked about animals, and you said the study takes about 2 years for the bats. So once you compile all of your information on your feasibility study, when then will we be getting this feedback of how this plays out? Is it going to be via email? Is it going to be via town hall? How do we get those back?
Great question. So the questions that were asked that I can do a little bit more research on, reach out to those subject matter experts for. I will get those as quickly as soon as possible. And I would like to provide it to the county if the county is willing to then post those questions that were asked and answers, and hopefully some of the constituents can send questions to the county, and vice versa, the county can send to me and I can answer. But some of the questions like the bats, I have to submit to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and after my studies, if everything looks good, then I have to submit an application to them. They provide their either acceptance and provide me an application, or they do not provide me an application. So it's some questions, it may take some time.
Second follow-up to that is, and I guess it's more county supervisors related, because the only way I found out about these meetings was word of mouth. Nobody sent me an email, a text, a call, or a mail notifying me of anything. So I would like to see a little bit more in that area with the county supervisors. I realize it's 6 counties and there's a lot of people, but there got to be a better way of communicating what's going on when this feasibility comes back and what the end result is.
When we have meetings,
Tell us how you're gonna fix it.
excuse me,
Paying your wages.
I'm just saying I will notify.
okay.
So now that I go to meetings, we'll do that. Thank you.
When we have meetings, we're required to post it on a board in the courthouse in Henry County, Iowa, Mount Pleasant. It also, on our agendas, it's listed on the county's website.
Okay.
So those are the 2 ways that it is listed.
Okay. I went to
We
the
are not-
website and I saw your minutes, and the minutes just say RWE and the list of people that were
Right,
there, but
that's-
it didn't give me what was discussed in the meeting.
That's what's in the minutes of the prior meeting. We approved them at the next meeting. And then they're in the records. But when we have scheduled meetings as a county supervisors on Tuesdays and Thursdays of each week at 9 a.m. Okay? They are on the county's website, Henry County, Iowa. Go there, scroll, hit agenda, it'll pop up, it'll tell you what is on our agenda.
Been there, I saw that.
Okay? All right.
I just want to quickly just state, sorry I did not at the beginning, I believe there's a sign-up sheet over here. You can put your name down, phone number. If you have questions, please, you can send it to me. But there's actually a checkbox for if you want to come on a wind farm tour. I would love to bring you all to a wind farm tour. You can go into the turbine, answer questions to our ops team, see the substation, see the ops building, walk to the distance of where these setbacks are, and listen for yourselves, ask the questions. I really do. I took 25 landowners out in October of 22, and some signed, some did not, but I was just happy people took the time to come see what they are like and ask the questions. So I just wanted to offer that, and depending on how many people sign up, I'll rent a charter bus, bring you out there. I'm gonna feed you because it's 4 hours one way, so I'm gonna feed you for lunch, and then I'll drop you back off.
It's 3 hours, 17 minutes.
So you're more than welcome. Just wanted to put that out there.
Where's that?
Decatur, Illinois.
Okay, I'm gonna go to the gentleman here.
Yeah, how deep are the foundations, and have there been any studies on the effects of aquifers or the water table?
Yeah, so those are studies that we do prior, soil type. We do all that study so we know where those tables are at. And for your question with the foundations, it depends on the model of the turbine. And turbines that are at like 600, 650 feet, it goes down to 12 feet is the lowest part of that foundation. And where the turbine you see is sticking up above the ground, the stem of it, the stem goes down the first 4 feet, and then it starts tapering out. And the access roads that are 16 to 20 feet on average, that if you look at a wind turbine, you have the access road leading to the turbine, then you have that access road going around, so it's an easy way to maneuver around the turbine. The actual foundation, they only go out about 10 feet outside of that access road. And on that outside at 10 feet past that access road, that's where they're, 11 feet, 12 feet deep. Is that?
That answer your question, sir?
Is that the top or the bottom of the concrete?
The 12 feet is at the bottom.
And in addition to the water table test, we also do hydrological studies, both pre-construction and post-construction, and then take core samples and specifically design it for the model, for the soil conditions to match it.
Has there been any impact on the study?
Impact?
Any change in the water table?
No, I mean, obviously, if there's a low water table, we're not gonna build it. So that's one of our checks that could be a fatal fall for a certain area of land that we have no way of knowing until we signed up and participating. So every participating acre that is signed up in the project gets several studies done. And so the water table study, it reveals that, well, maybe 300 acres or 3 foot of water table will get the turbines in 3 foot of water table.
Ma'am? Yes, you.
I have a question on the ambient noise. Have you set up any kind of testing for ambient noise in the county?
Not as of yet. Yes, that is later in the process, in the development process.
Okay. And as far as Access Energy or any other company, are they mandated by the government to buy the wind power?
Not sure, to be honest, but
No, a lot of companies that buy the electric are looking for a flat fee. Just as if you were to have a contract with maybe your tenant to where, 2 years you're gonna rent the lease at X amount of dollars. A lot of businesses are wanting to try to figure out what their capital expenditures are and their operating expenses, electric being one of them. So from a long term standpoint, they can set it at a 5-year or 10-year, and so that way, everybody has what that set price is gonna be for the fall paper.
Part of where that question stems from is next week there's going to be a meeting with Access Energy, which is the power company we get our power from, about another rate increase. And this time they're going to a demand rate plus just the regular kilowatt rate. And I'll ask questions there, but I know in the past, before things kind of got crazy, was that in their pamphlets that they send out to everybody, they had a section that if you wanted to buy like wind power or solar power, an alternative power source, you could do that, but it was a lot more expensive. So, from that, I would have to extrapolate that. Is that why some of our prices are going up? Because they're gearing up, predicting that they're going to be in some way mandated or some government thing that's going to say you have to buy so much of this green power?
No government mandate or carbon credits from that standpoint is already. Sounds like it might be an internal thing, but I know other states at a state level mandate renewables. I don't know about Iowa, I don't know what Hawaii is, and because of that, there's some different benefits as opposed to Indiana, which is a voluntary mandate of renewables, meaning that distributors have to or can apply depending on whether they're mandated or non-mandated states. That'd be a question with that organization. I don't believe they are mandated states, but
I wanted to kind of address, and you said that there's no studies that prove that turbine noise, whether it's the audible noise or inaudible noise, causes health problems. And I will reiterate, and if somebody wants, more information on it, because the thing is that I haven't found any study that hasn't been paid for either by the Department of Energy or the industry itself. And that one, on Tuesday, I gave out where is it? I'm sorry. Oh, here. Where it's Brown County Human Services Special event with Duke Energy about the Shirley Wind Farm. That was from September 12, 2017, where they addressed the health problems, because it was the Department of Health and the supervisors. That's an excellent video to watch. It's a long one to watch. It's on YouTube. I guess I'm bothered by that there's no, I mean, what they call anecdotal. You know, they don't put it in any study because it's anecdotal. And I know the wind power industry has been around for quite a while. And what anecdotal means, because I didn't know for sure, I had to look it up, means that this whole county could have the same health symptoms, you know, adverse symptoms, but they're not going to be in a report because they're all anecdotal, word of mouth. So to me, that's troubling. That, you know, the first thing about this should be safety. And I'll go on. But anyway, another thing I wanted to follow up on, because I brought
Kind of to address that anybody could sue for whatever reason. But from a safety standpoint, all of the kids that have attended Purdue University, around 700 turbines, as well as the many workers that we have working on our 3,000 turbines in our fleet, there would be a class action lawsuit. They don't have contracts to sign up that if you get sick, then you can't sue the company. No. Employee, if they're sick, if everybody in this project or that project or as an industry can sue. There's no suits going on from the workers, technicians that are working on the turbine, that are living, sleeping in the ground.
And just to add to that too, like I personally have climbed 1,000. And that's just, it's personal.
Right, okay, and I understand that. The thing is, today, we can get online and listen to people talk about their symptoms. And, I mean, these people, so I mean, it's one thing to read something, you go, you know, who are these people? You know, things like that. But when you're watching them, they're sincere. And anyway.
And there's a lot of information out there. From our industry, it's peer reviewed, it's studied, it's analyzed, it's verified before it's even published. There's a lot of stuff out there that isn't considered a source.
I know, but some of those studies, they have to go through peer review before they're considered. And to me, that's the thing. They're not going to be peer reviewed if it's just anecdotal evidence.
Well, I mean, obviously, you wouldn't want a veterinarian when you go for a headache working on it. So again, I mean, consider the source as to what you're looking for, because you'll find it. If you're looking for negative, you'll find it. If you're looking for positive, you'll find it. From the positive standpoint, from our industry, it's peer review. This isn't a science fair project. In 30 years in the U.S., every county has them. From the assessor standpoint, as you found out, or you may have found out, that the tax values, the tax assessments, the financial benefits without affecting the health, safety, and welfare if they're properly cited.
Anybody can go to win/watch.org and find out a lot of information. No?
Let's again try to keep it to questions.
I'm sorry,